id Software recently said in their end-of-year press statement that Doom Eternal will be compatible with next-gen consoles at some point in 2021. This line sparked my brain, and I ended up thinking about the differences between the console version of Doom Eternal and the PC version. I am a PS4 player, and I feel like if my computer tried to run Doom Eternal, it would explode because there's just so much going on with that game. However, I have been tempted to try and run it because of the inherent advantages that the PC version has over consoles. This isn't going to be a debate about PC versus console gaming as a whole, since there are pros and cons to every platform, and I'm just sticking to how Doom Eternal is played. Let's start out with the Nintendo Switch version, which was only released a couple of weeks ago. The game is capped at 30 FPS, which I think is really smart, as they want to stick to a frame rate that they can confidently hit. id Software did not make this port internally, and they got the team at Panic Button to do it. I don't have a Switch, so I can't personally say whether it's a good or bad version, but from all accounts, it's still a solid way to play the game. Of course, there are some downsides, like lower texture quality, and it also doesn't have the Ancient Gods Part 1, but having Doom on the go makes everything worth it. The Switch is a slick console, and while it can't compete with Xbox or PlayStation on a technical level, it still has its very unique advantages, and I'm glad to see so many people enjoying it. Speaking of Xbox and PlayStation, Doom Eternal's main console version was released on these. While they share all of the same content as the PC version, there are some downsides that make playing the game at the highest levels somewhat difficult. The biggest disadvantage that Doom Eternal on console has is the inability to quick switch weapons. You technically can by tapping the R1 button, but it only cycles between your last two equipped guns. I know that they can't actually move this feature on the PC to the console version since there just aren't enough buttons to fully support quick switching. This makes Ultra Nightmare runs next to impossible, for me at least. There are many console players who have been kicking ass and taking names, and have actually beat Doom Eternal on Ultra Nightmare, but I don't see myself joining those people. Quick switching is a huge part of Doom Eternal's expert play, and while yeah, I do have the ability to quick switch between two of the guns, it's just not the same. I'm obviously not blaming id Software for this, like what are they going to do, bring out an 8-button extension for the PS4 controller? I'm just talking from my own experiences as a console gamer, and even though I can beat Nightmare without too much frustration, Ultra Nightmare still remains impossible for me. I will say that the control layout on the console version is superb, like every button is in the place that you expect it to be, and the controls are pretty perfect. id Software have made an excellent port on the PS4 and Xbox One, and I don't want to take that away from them because one feature physically cannot be included. There are just more buttons to work with on a PC, and if you want to give yourself every advantage you can on Ultra Nightmare, then I suggest playing Doom Eternal on there. I love the attitude that id Software has with console players, as they don't look down upon them at all and actually embrace that style of play. In the Doom Eternal director playthroughs, Hugo Martin has been using an Xbox controller rather than a keyboard, and it's fascinating seeing him experiencing the game and talking about it.
But you are playing with that vanilla controller. Tell us why.
Well, I mean, and by PC player standards, it's already vanilla because I'm not mouse and keyboarding it. And I'm pretty good at the mouse and keyboard, but like I'm not going to go there in front of this crowd. But yeah, I normally play. I like to play with paddles, you know, and I got a sweet, you know, nice aftermarket controller here.
Doom Eternal's console disadvantages are not due to id Software or anything, it's just because of the stark contrast between the keyboard and a controller. Like I've said before, there have been absolute legends that beat Doom Eternal and Ultra Nightmare on a console, and they are gods among men. Quick switching is not a huge deal on lower difficulty settings, by the way, but if you want to boost it up to Nightmare or something, you'll see how crucial that mechanic really is. The ability to quick switch just looks fucking awesome as well. Like, if you've seen top tier PC players, you can see them pulling off weapon combos and it's great to watch. Stun looking demons with a plasma rifle's microwave beam and then going in for a shotgun or ballista kill is one of my favourite combos, and it's fairly easy to pull off on PC. It is still possible to perform weapon combos on a console with a controller, but you need to get very familiar with the weapon wheel and the two previously selected guns to quick switch. It's almost as if you need to memorize where which weapon is on the wheel, which isn't that hard at all, but doing that in the middle of combat is where most of the challenge lies. Again, I can perform most of these weapon combos on console, and I'm not trying to bog down or complain about these wonderful console versions of Doom Eternal, but it is something to note. I've heard the comparison between Doom Eternal and a fighting game before, and I think it's quite apt. Once you start getting better at the game and truly master the combat puzzle of Doom Eternal, you will know which weapon falters what enemy, which mods you want to equip for each encounter, and what string of attacks you need to execute to kill a demon most effectively. The sense of discovery in Doom Eternal is fantastic, but onto the topic at hand. I'm unsure what real improvements they are going to make for a next-gen release of the game, but I'm looking forward to seeing what those will be. I'm not going to get the PS5 for at least a couple of years, since we don't tend to buy new consoles in their launch window. I want to wait a couple of years to see the new games and what exactly will be on the console that excites me, and you don't get a great read of that when the next-gen systems first come out. I wonder if Doom Eternal on next-gen systems will have exclusive events, or perhaps new online collectibles that are unattainable on PS4 and Xbox One. Only time will tell, but the Microsoft acquisition is also something to bring up. I personally don't think this will affect Doom in the slightest, and it's likely more profitable for id Software to bring a new Doom game out on all platforms, rather than make it Xbox and PC exclusive. Doom is a celebrated property in the gaming industry, and I don't think they would make the decision to cut off a section of people from playing its new releases. What I think is more likely is Microsoft making all of Bethesda's new IPs exclusive to the Xbox, and they can test the numbers on doing that using a non-beloved property. It's going to be interesting to see how this buyout will affect Bethesda and its sister companies later down the line, but I wouldn't worry about Doom being exclusive. I just don't see them pulling that shit off without a ton of pushback from fans. This has been me talking about the Doom Eternal console world and how there are inherent disadvantages with playing it on Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Switch. However, that doesn't mean that the console versions are these butchered ports of Doom Eternal, because they aren't, and are actually pretty impressive. Everything on the PC version is included in every console version, excluding mod support obviously, because how could that be possible? The modding community for Doom Eternal seems to be pretty active though, with them making custom modes and new master levels, and I should have a deeper look into it. That being said, Doom Eternal on consoles is awesome, because Doom Eternal in general is awesome. Thanks for watching.